Jai Bhim, good evening. Uh, we are happy to have this session with Banteji Suniti from Nagpur on the occasion of International Bhikkhuni Day, which is falling on 20th of September on this year. And the speech she is going to deliver is about Bhikkhuni Sangha Day. The International Bhikkhuni Day has been commemorating the day of ordaining the bhikkhunis like Mahaprajapati Gautami, who has been initiated as the bhikkhuni and founded the bhikkhuni sangha. That was the first. She was the first bhikkhuni, and following that, many women has joined and attained arahantship. When it comes to Buddhism, Buddhism doesn't separate women from its spirituality because it gives equal rights to both men and women when it comes to attaining Buddhahood, that is arahantship actually. So, to spread the awareness about equality among bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, this day has been celebrated as International Bhikkhuni Day from 2013 onwards actually, and as to have a special speech commemorating this day, we are having Banteji Suniti from Nagpur. She is going to deliver the speech titled as Bhikkhuni Sangha Day.
Hello.
Yeah, Banteji, you can talk now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Surya.
It's really my pleasure to have this special moment to speak on this day. Uh, really, in India, about the Bhikkhuni Sangh, most of them were unaware of it. Now also many people think that when they see the bhikkhunis, they think that oh, really the women are allowed in the as a teacher Buddha to teach the Buddha's teachings. So many are surprised, and this is because very lately we had started this propagating that the Buddha had started his teachings through the four sanghas, which includes the very important pillar. With the four sanghas, we say they are the pillars of the Buddha's propagators. So everyone knows about Bhikkhu Sangha, everyone knows about Upasak Sangha, and everyone knows about Upasika Sangha. But Bhikkhuni Sangha, yes, it was not known by all. It We can say that this Sangha almost vanished, or we can't say died, we can say it vanished, or it was not known by the people just because through the text and also the other ways of making people aware, the Sangha was not there, the Bhikkhuni Sangha was not there, means the women in robes. The Bhikkhuni Sangha, when we say, it means the women in robes. And when the women in robes comes, actually, when women comes in robes in front of the public, the lay people, it's very difficult for the people to understand whether this people which we are see in robes, they are men or women, you know. So it's like when uh, just a few months ago I went to one place, And one small girl came to me and she asked me, "आप महिला है या पुरुष है? You know, are you man or a woman?" So before that, before asking, she for 10 minutes almost, she was just staring at me. You know, she was she was staring at me, and I thought that something is going in her head. And she was just, I think, 10 to 12 years old. And then I asked her, "Yes, what happened? Do you want to ask me something?" She said, "Just I want to know whether you are a man or a woman." I said, "What do you think?" She listened to my voice and she said, "Oh, I think you are a woman." I said, "Yes." Why this surprise, or why people are not able to recognize the bhikkhu and bhikkhuni differently? Does Buddha wanted this, that people should not recognize? It's a big question. And when we talk of the equality which was told by Buddha, because he wanted to bring equality in people, in general public, what we know now as humanity, he wanted to tell us through his teachings that every human beings are equal, you know. And as you introduced me and introduced the topic, it shows that Buddha does not want to do any discrimination on the part of gender, because India is known for what we can say, that because of the varna, because of the caste, so everyone, like they want to say that they are more, they are upper to the other people, they want to say that the other people are low to them. So this came because of the varnas and the caste, and this has been taught from so many years, before Buddha also and after Buddha also. This issue has been taken by many, and everyone talks on it. Everyone talks on this discrimination, and everyone wants that there should not be such kind of discrimination. But when it comes to gender discrimination, it is never talked of, you know. And at the time of Buddha, really, it was like, because of the Vedic culture, the women had their roles as a woman in the house who is taking care of the family, and so many things which she was not allowed to do, which a general man can do it, you know. So we can say that at the Buddha time also, women was not allowed to come out of the house, even to educate herself, even to do the out course which are done by the men after leaving the house, you know. So this kind of things were there. But we find that in Jainism, at the time of Buddha, women were there who were allowed to leave their house and become a part of the sangha of the Jain culture. You know, they were not the household women. They left their houses and they joined the sangha of the Jain, Jain culture. You know that. But in other things, and somewhere when we study the history of Siddhartha before becoming Buddha, especially when we go through the Buddha and his Dhamma, we find that Siddhartha meets some sannyasi women, we say, in Rajgraha. There we find that, yes, in Brahmins, women were there. Maybe that is because the in Brahmin culture, the the Brahmins were allowed to leave their house and live a life of sannyasis. But they were not living alone, they were living with their families. And maybe these women were there only because maybe, I don't know the clear thing because it is not mentioned there. We can say that the family member must have not been alive, so they were alone. So we find that Siddhartha meet with women who were sannyasis. So very few incidences we find that women were seen outside who were not in the not as who were not living as a family members. So here we can say, then how did the bhikkhuni, we see bhikkhunis in the Buddha sasana. So actually the history goes in such a way that when Siddhartha attains Buddhahood, and he meet, before attaining the Buddhahood, he meet many gurus, we say, many sannyasis, he meet them, he learns many things from them, but he is not able to find out the answers to his questions, that is about the sufferings, why people are suffering. I think this is a common thing which everyone knows, so I won't go deep into this. But when he sits together alone and he find out his way, his path, he becomes Buddha. And he remember the five parivrajakas which who the one who left him when he started eating the food, and he took kir payasam, what you say, from Sujata. So this five parivrajaka leaves him, and therefore after getting Buddhahood, he just remember them, and he starts to meet them, because the Buddhahood Siddhartha got it in Buddha Gaya, and these five parivrajakas were at that time staying in Sarnath. So it was a long distance, and he starts from there, and on the way he meets many people. We find that there are many men who were like, we can say the businessmen, we can say shreshtis. We find that the word shreshti for them, who are moving from one place to another place for the business purpose. So he meets them and he tells them, he guides them whatever the questions this man ask him, because after attaining the Buddhahood, Buddha is attracted, people wanted to meet Buddha and ask something to him. He had that personality. So on the way, he meet many people, and many people become the upasakas to Buddha. So while going there, he never met any women on the way except Sujata before attaining the Buddhahood. Some after reaching Sarnath, when he tells what he has attained, all the five parivrajakas are they they understand what Buddha want to say, and they get ready to become the member of the Buddha. What we say as they take refuge in Buddha, we say, Buddha ki sharan mein chale jate hain. So, and because they were five of them, a Bhikkhu Sangha is formed on the same day. As soon as they all five they take refuge in Buddha, it means the Sangha was formed. But as soon as the Sangha was formed, he tells them to go to different places and spread the teachings of him to other people. So this, because they move from one place to another, but on the way, the upasakas which Buddha met, these upasakas think that what Buddha is telling to me is very good for my living, for my mangal, for my life, in my life. What should I get? I can like live a good life, but somewhere, isn't it possible that if Buddha comes to my family and he gives his teachings to my family, you know? So when they asked Buddha, they did not ask directly like that you can you give it to my family or your teachings and all. They didn't say like that directly, but they invited him for the bhojandana, for the lunch. And in that way, that was a procedure, we can say. It became the step towards meeting the women, So the Buddha, on invitation, enters the families and he starts giving his teachings to the families. So, from these women who served food to Buddha and the Bhikkhu Sangha, they became upasikas. It was really very step by step progress, we can say. This woman became the upasika, and we know the first upasika was Vishakha. Vishakha became the first upasika. She was very small when she met Buddha, and she, till her end of life, she was a great upasika with Buddha, who helped to serve the Buddha, serve the Bhikkhu Sangha, and serve the Bhikkhuni Sangha. So she played a very big role. But here we can say, as the first Upasaka Sangha was formed, second the Bhikkhu Sangha was formed. We can't say Upasaka Sangha was formed because very individual people were meeting. It was not, we can say it was a Sangha. As 5 Parivrajakas became the Bhikkhus, that was the first Sangha. Then we say Upasaka Sangha, and then the formation of Upasika Sangha. Now the 4th Sangha is left, and that is the Bhikkhuni Sangha. How it was formed, that we have to now understand. So we find in the Mahaparinibban Sutta of Buddha, when Buddha has a dialogue with Ananda, he declares that he would be he is going to attain parinibbana. At that time is the end, and the starting is when he attains the Buddhahood. So he talks to Ananda about what he had a dialogue with the Mara when he attained the Buddhahood. Mara means, here we can say, Mara is the negative thought in our mind. We have to say that way, because there was no one to whom Buddha was talking, So it is always, we know that in our mind that 2 thoughts are going on. And when Siddhartha attains the Buddhahood, at that time the negative thoughts also comes in him, and he says, oh, now you have attained the Buddhahood, now you can leave the world, you can go for you can attain Mahaparinibbana now, like that he says. And Buddha says, no, it is not the time now. Means he is talking to the negative thoughts, means he is denying the negative thoughts, he is making them go. And how he let it go? He says, no, I won't attain Mahaparinibbana, because I have to form the 4 sanghas. I have to form Bhikkhu Sangha, Bhikkhuni Sangha, Upasak Sangha, and Upasika Sangha. See, at the time of when he attains the Buddhahood, that time he thinks of it, but we don't find that he says this to any person, but he talks with Ananda before attaining Mahaparinippan. So here, because of the dialogue, we get to know that Buddha had already had in his mind the formation of 4 sanghas. So now when we talk of Bhikkhu Sangha, Upasak Sangha, and Upasika Sangha, the 4th Sangha is left behind. So how it formed? So now here we start when we say that Buddha was invited by the king Shuddhodana. After he becomes Buddha, King Shuddhodana invites him, and when Buddha goes there, it was the last time of Shuddhodana. So after his death, Buddha stay there, and he returns. But later again he go to Kapil Vastu. Sorry, not Buddha Gaya, but Kapil Vastu. He goes to Kapil Vastu, and there Mahaprajapati Gautami, she talks with Yashodhara. She talks with Yashodhara, saying that, see, now the king is not there. And many of the Sakya men has entered the Bhikkhu Sangha. They became the Bhikkhu and entered the Bhikkhu Sangha. And they are doing a great job for humanity. She says that even the Shudras and the untouchables were given entry to the Sangha. They were also given the robes and they were allowed to enter the Sangha. So Mahaprajapati says that there is no reason that Buddha will say no to us. Means she shares her views with Yashodhara. Now, the another thing reveals here, Yashodhara says, yes, we can. And before this, I asked Buddha that I want to become a bhikkhuni. So the one who says that who want to become a bhikkhuni is the Yashodhara. And Mahaprajapati asked, what did he reply? He said that this is not the proper time. He didn't say no. He said this is not the proper time. Now, she says to Mahaprajapati, you are the mother. You are his mother. And if you request him, he won't say no. So please, you go forward and request Buddha that we want to become a bhikkhuni. So please allow us. Now here the Mahaprajapati goes to Buddha and she requests. Now see, what does the Buddha says? See, in many things are written. And it is propagated that, very wrongly propagated that Buddha said no to women. Then the Mahaparinippan Sutta becomes, we can say, we can't say that it is true then, So here, Buddha never said no. He again repeat the same sentence, what he has told to Yashodhara. And what he says then, what he told to Yashodhara earlier, he said that this is not the proper time. See the words, this is not the proper time. In Pali text we find, उपयुक्त समय नहीं आया है. उपयुक्त समय नहीं आया है. So, it doesn't mean no. There is a good dialogue then. between Yashodhara and Mahaprajapati, how they take it, how they take this sentence as what does it mean according to them. But here, while talking to the Mahaprajapati, Buddha just not only said this word, but he adds another sentence. He says, there are few women from Rajgriha who want to become bhikkhunis. See, what he says, this is not the proper time, but there are women in Rajgriha who want to become bhikkhunis. Means this point Mahaprajapati take it, and she comes to Yashodhara and they plan that something is hidden in his dialogue. What Buddha has said, something is hidden there. He did not say no and he did not say yes. But somewhere when he says there are women in Rajgriha, means he is thinking of the Bhikkhuni Sangha. Before this also we find that when before taking this request to Buddha, Mahaprajapati takes the robe for I think not robe, he takes some cloth for, because the Buddha is suffering from cold, he takes something for Buddha, some cloth for Buddha, so that he should not suffer from cold, to safeguard himself. And when she goes there and she gives, Buddha says, no, you should not give it to me alone. You should give it to the Sangha. And there he explains how this can be donated, dan, the dan. Even if a mother is giving a dan, it should not be given to the son. It should be given to the Bhikkhu Sangha. It should be given to the Bhikkhuni Sangha. See, there is no Bhikkhuni Sangha, but Buddha says, the dan should be given to the Bhikkhuni Sangha. The dan should be given to the bhikkhus. The dan should be given to the bhikkhunis. In this way, he says, that means the concept of formation of Bhikkhuni Sangha is already there in Buddha's mind. Okay, so when this both return back, then they say that yes, somewhere, because Buddha did not say yes directly, because somewhere he doesn't want me alone to become a bhikkhuni, because there may be many practical problems, because there is a bhikkhu sangha, all men are there, and one woman making arrangement for one woman in the bhikkhu sangha is practically impossible. So she says, if we go in sangha, means if we go in group, group of women, will he say no? I don't think. Then they plan. That there are many Sakya women who want to become bhikkhunis. See, now Rajgriha women are different. Said that way, because there was no one to. Gautami is thinking is about the Sakya women, because many Sakya men had entered the Bhikkhu Sangha. So she thinks that if we motivate the Sakya women who want to become bhikkhunis, they are not able to take the first initial step. So I can initiate it, I can call them, I can motivate them, and we will go in a group to Buddha and request for to become bhikkhuni, especially to enter in the Sangha. Here again, two things are there. Now it is in the text, it's written that 500 Sakya women, they come together under the leadership of Mahaprajapati Gautami. Now here, we say whether they become bhikkhuni after Buddha's permission or after Buddha allowed, or they become bhikkhuni before. Now here it's a question. But we find in the text, we find in the history that these 500 women with Mahaprajapati Gautami, they on their own, they shave their head. Okay, they shave their head. They wear the robes, taking out all their ornaments and all their royal clothes. They just take it off and they wear the robes. We say kasai vastra. They wear the robes and they decide that maybe the Buddha or the bhikkhus may think that women are very weak. Women cannot stay without family. Women cannot stay out of their means they cannot leave bearing all the difficulties when they come out of the house, you know. So because of that, we have to show that we are also strong enough to face all the problems which come in our way, you know. Then they decide that they will not wear any slippers, they won't wear any chappal, and they will walk from Kapil Vastu to Vaishali because Buddha at that time is in Kapil Vastu. In Vaishali. So, and everyone gets ready. See this, their spirit, we can say. They all get ready. All are from, most of them are from the royal family. Most of them, not all, but still they get ready to walk almost more than 400 miles from Kapil Vastu to Vaishali. And they really start with a bowl in their hand, what we say Pindapata now, because they did not take anything with them except the robes and the bowl for food, you know. And they walked from Kapil Vastu to Vaishali. That this shows, it's not written there, but it shows that they became bhikkhuni before asking Buddha by shaving the head and wearing the robes. Now the word bhikkhuni as such, it is said that after high ordination we get the word, because in later incidences we find that they take the high ordination from Buddha and all, from the Bhikkhu Sangha and all. But still, here again in text there is some dilemma, what is right and what is wrong. But there is no other doubt that we can say they became bhikkhuni and they walked to Vaishali. And because it was their first time, because they were very safe and very taken care in their family, they had to face lot of problems without chappal and walking so long. So their legs were like swollen. Some legs were they were bleeding, you know. So all these things, and they were very tired because the robes were torn. Like, so these are the things which is told in the text, you know. So it is picturized as such that all these 500 Sakya women in robes, they reach Nalanda, and how they were they were with a very sad face because they walked so long. They reach there and sat at one place, you know. So this is the incidents where now here again the problem arises that Buddha never said no to any or any can say to meet. Okay, and Buddha never said no to meet a woman, because he went to the families on invitation, okay, for the bhojan dana. Then there the question arises, why did Mahaprajapati Gautami directly go to Buddha? Why she waited outside? And why she did not talk directly to Buddha? Because in the text it is shown that Ananda talked to Mahaprajapati and he takes the message to the Buddha. So there is an indirect communication between Buddha and Mahaprajapati, according to the text. And what Mahaprajapati says, according to the text, that she want to become a bhikkhuni. So many 500 Sakya women want to become bhikkhuni. But actually, we can say that she want to say that she want as bhikkhuni sangha. Actually, she want to enter a sangha, not bhikkhuni sangha. She want to enter a sangha. Now here, the Buddha says, yes, there are many differences when people tell about this. They say that Buddha still said no. No, it comes from the dialogue from the Buddha and Ananda that Buddha says no, and Ananda convinced Buddha that why you are saying no, whether women are not able to attain nibbana, or whether they are weak, or whether they cannot become a bhikkhunis, or so many questions he asked. And Buddha says, please don't misunderstand me. Every woman has that seed of Buddhahood, and she can become a bhikkhuni, she can attain nirvana, she can attain Buddhahood. Since this Buddhahood is again missing here, you know, they don't give that word. So here we can say that it is shown that Ananda is convincing Buddha. But in other text or other incidences shows that Buddha wanted the bhikkhuni sangha. And here Ananda is convincing him to allow them. And here we can find that Buddha decides that bhikkhuni cannot stay with the bhikkhu sangha, so they cannot be given entry to the bhikkhu sangha, but it should be another sangha. Because even though they look alike, they have their way of learning, you know, to attaining the Buddhahood, attaining the nirvana, everything is same, but physically they are different. And it's a very big problem to keep them together. Because every time this natural things, it is natural thing, it becomes hindrance to gain knowledge and spread knowledge. You know, what we say as brahmacharya. You know, this word is very much important, which says that we have to be away from all these things because we want to gain knowledge and because we want to spread knowledge. So this become hindrance, and so they cannot live together. Therefore, two sanghas were formed. So Bhikkhuni Sangha was formed. One thing I want to mention here, that before Mahaprajapati Gautami, Mahakashyap's Bhikkhu Mahakashyap, who has arranged this first council, this Bhikkhu has his wife earlier, and she was the most beautiful lady in at that time, they say, and she also wanted to become a bhikkhuni, because Mahakashyap became bhikkhu and his wife also wanted to become a bhikkhuni. This is before Mahaprajapati request to Buddha. But at that time, she alone asked to Buddha whether she can become a bhikkhuni. And Buddha, maybe he must have said the same words, that the time has not come, you know. So she enters the Jain Sangha. She becomes a Jain Sadhvi, you know, and she is unaware when the Bhikkhuni Sangha is formed till that time, she was unaware that the Bhikkhuni Sangha is formed. So later she enters the Bhikkhuni Sangha. Maybe because she was alone, but she did not, as what Mahaprajapati Gautami thought, that if you go in Sangha, there won't be no for them, you know. In the same way, if she would have said, she would have formed the Bhikkhuni Sangha at that time, but she went alone and she did not try for the Sangha again. So, Mahaprajapati Gautami formed this Bhikkhuni Sangha. And we can say they entered this Sangha as a Bhikkhuni Sangha. We can say this way. Don't know whether my sentence is correct or not. But I can just say that a Bhikkhuni Sangha was formed, and that day was this Bhadrapad Purnima. Bhadrapad Full Moon Day, which is coming tomorrow, the 20th of September. So this day, the Sangha was formed at the time of Buddha. You know, Mahaprajapati Gautami became the first Bhikkhuni, because it is said the ordination was not directly given by Buddha. It is said that some rules were given to her that she will follow, and she becomes a high ordained Bhikkhuni. And Buddha ordered the bhikkhus, Buddha ordered the Bhikkhu Sangha to give high ordination to the women, you know, to the bhikkhunis. So, see, this thing is missing now also, you know. The bhikkhu should give, when there is no Bhikkhuni Sangha, if it is the new one, the bhikkhus have a right to give high ordination to the bhikkhunis. But this has not yet started. Somewhere it has started, and it is started from outside India. But India, it is still missing. Some bhikkhus are, yes, they are working hard for this, because they are facing a lot of problems to ask the bhikkhunis, to women, to enter the Sangha, Bhikkhuni Sangha, you know. And now we can say this Bhikkhuni formation day, it we can say it was the first revolution for women in this world, because we always say that women revolution, you know, we talk of 8th March, you know. 8th March is the women revolution day, you know, women's day. We celebrate it as Women's Day, because they wanted the right to vote and so many things, because as the women labors and all, many things are there. But it is recently we know about that. In between, there were many very small campaign or movement by the women were done. And India, yes, we know about Kranti Jyoti Savitribai Phule and Kranti Surya Jyotirao Phule, who had fought for the liberation of women, you know, for their education and all. We know all these things. And especially after when Baba Saheb Ambedkar burned the Manusmriti, that day is also celebrated as the Women Liberation Day in India. You know, so there are many things. But somewhere Mahaprajapati's revelation was dumped, I can say. They did not, the people of that, maybe the text, because most of the text were written by the Brahmin bhikkhus, maybe because they were totally against the women. They did not want women to become sannyasis. They did not want women to become bhikkhunis. And the text was also, we can say, it was written after 400 years of the Mahaparinibbana of Buddha. You know, so these are the things we can say, that totally, as soon as the Bhikkhuni Sangha, we can say it vanished at the time of Mahaparinibbana of Buddha. because there were so many bhikkhunis. We find now in many texts written in foreign by foreign authors, and also in India we find the Therigathas. So many bhikkhunis were there who were praised by Buddha that they are the good teachers. They are taking the real Dhamma to people. They are they are answering the question of the people as Buddha used to answer. Means he praised the bhikkhunis at that time. So many bhikkhunis were there, thousands of bhikkhunis were there, but we find that the text written about the Mahaparinibbana of Buddha, in that text, there is no mention of any bhikkhuni. There is not a single bhikkhuni mentioned in it. So somewhere this, we can say, they avoided to use the word of bhikkhunis. Means when we picturize the text, we see there are many artists that frame the picture of Mahaparinibbana of Buddha, and that picture shows that the Upasika Sangha is sitting at one side, Upasak Sangha is sitting at one side, Bhikkhu Sangha is sitting at one side, but there is no Bhikkhuni Sangha. Not a single Bhikkhuni sitting at the time of Buddha's last funeral time. And many of them argue that it was very difficult for bhikkhunis to arrive. I said, what is this logic? When Mahakashyap, Bhikkhu Mahakashyap, 7 days the Buddha's dead body is kept, because he is far away and it takes 7 days for him to reach there. So they don't do the last rituals. Then nearby there were no bhikkhunis or what? So some of the questions arises that purposely the bhikkhunis were avoided or what? And again the things we see that after the 3 months, we can say 90 days, 100 days, they say, that after Mahaparinibbana of Buddha, Mahakashyap Bhikkhu calls a first council. And in that first council, only 500 bhikkhus are. Why I'm saying only? You just, we should understand. Only 500 bhikkhus were present in the first council. Why only? Because there were thousands of bhikkhus at that time. Means the 500 were those who were following the Mahakashyapa bhikkhu were only present. And it was there, they were forced to call Ananda in the Sangha. Because Ananda was the only one who knew each and every teachings of Buddha. Because Ananda was always with Buddha as an assistant. Whenever Buddha used to preach or give his desana to people, he was always there. And whenever he was not there, there was a, we can say, we don't use the word contract, but it was like that, they had that much a kind of bonding that Buddha used to repeat it to Ananda what he has told to the people there where Ananda was not there. Each and everything Ananda was knowing. And he was called there, saying that he is not her. There are many things which I don't want to repeat here, but he was called there, and purposely in that 500 bhikkhus, there were no one bhikkhuni. No bhikkhuni was there. Second, the Ananda was questioned why he asked Buddha to allow women in the bhikkhuni sangha. Why he favored for bhikkhuni sangha. Means this first council, maybe people must be saying that first council was for to collect all the teachings of Buddha and the Vinaya, the Sutta Pitak and the Vinaya Pitak. Sutta Pitaka is all the teachings of Buddha which has been collected, and Vinay Pitaka is the rule for the bhikkhu and bhikkhunis. So these were to be collected and discussed. But here we say that it was purposely called to make Anand realize that he has done wrong by asking Buddha to allow women to take robes and form a Bhikkhuni Sangha. Because before starting the first council, this question starts. As soon as the Ananda is there, they start asking this question. How the first council, the leader of the first council, was against the Bhikkhunis. And yeah, it is surprising. He is blaming Ananda, but he went to Buddha to ask that his wife should want to become a Bhikkhuni. There is again contradiction. A person is, I'm sorry, a Bhikkhu is opposing Ananda, blaming Ananda to allow women in the Sangha, but he was the same person who requested Buddha to allow his wife to become a Bhikkhuni. That means there is something black and white, we can say, that this is maybe, I don't know, but it was really against the Bhikkhuni Sangha and against the women, we can say, especially because becoming a Bhikkhuni and forming a Bhikkhuni Sangha, it was a great step for a women, especially women, to get the right of education. Entering a Sangha means learning Dhamma, getting education. And after getting education, after learning Dhamma, they are to become the teachers of the Dhamma. You know, they entered the education system. That was the biggest revolution which I said. It was the right of education which the women got through Buddha by entering into the Sangha. So 2500, more than 2500 years ago, this was the revolution which Mahaprajapati Gautami initiated and Buddha supported. I will say Buddha supported. But as soon as Buddha is gone, all it was against the Bhikkhunis, and now we find that there is not a single word of Bhikkhunis from the Mahaparinibbana of Buddha and the time of Ashoka. You know, it is, I think, more than 250 years. Okay, till that time we do not find a single incidence or anything about a single Bhikkhuni. You know, just a big gap. And even after Ashoka, we find that Bhikkhuni Sangamitra was there. But we know only Bhikkhuni Sangamitra, we don't know about the Bhikkhuni Sangha. There is again a problem. You know, again a problem is there that we find Bhikkhuni Sangamitra, we know about her, and we know about her because the Sri Lankan were good enough to take the name of the Guru, to take the name and propagate the name of the teacher, Bhikkhuni Sangamitra, who had taken this Dhamma to Sri Lanka. But in India, no. If Sri Lanka has not done, we would have not known about Bhikkhuni Sangamitra also. In the Sri Lankan text, we find that Bhikkhuni Sangamitra did not went alone. He went with other 10 Bhikkhunis. The names are there. It is not found in the Indian text. again. Somewhere it is hurt, somewhere it is hurt here. Because it is for the whole women population, you know. And here we find that still we don't know that at the time of Ashoka, when Bhikkhuni Sangamitra went to Sri Lanka, she took 10 bhikkhunis from here. They accompanied, they went there, and they spread Buddhism there. They spread Dhamma there, and she lived there till her end, you know. But there were bhikkhunis in India too when she left India, you know. Ujjain is well known for it. Many bhikkhunis were there. We won't find, we have to search, small things we have to search from the text and all. We have to, what Baba Sahib did, searching everything, from the books, even the Hindu books, the scriptures of Hindus, we can say, we have to find out from there. There also we find about something about bhikkhunis. So this, we can say that they're totally neglected. Bhikkhunis were totally neglected in India. Only because till Buddha was there, we find the Bhikkhuni Sangha, and after that it was totally, it vanished. We don't find anything. But after Sri Lanka, it went to China. From there, it went to Thailand. And lastly, again, it came to India. And that too because of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, we can say. Because Baba Sahib Ambedkar motivated the women to do the social work. Baba Sahib Ambedkar introduced Buddha to women also, to everyone. And, in 1968, 67, a woman who was a follower of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, who was doing social work in the name of Baba Sahib, she dared to take the robe. She dared to take the robe in 1967. She was opposed by many. She was opposed by many. But still, she took it, and she slowly, till 1998, there were a group of bhikkhunis, we can say. They were almost more than 30. So it was there. And as you said, that from 2013, International Bhikkhuni Day is celebrated. Actually, I also got the message from the International Alliance of Bhikkhunis that yes, in India, this day should be celebrated. And in 2014, we celebrated the Bhikkhuni Sangha Day in Nagpur. So this was our start. And one thing I want to tell you, that Bhikkhu Maurya Bodha from Tamil Nadu, who is in robes now, at that time, he was not in robes, and he was present in that program on the Bhikkhuni Sangha Day in Nagpur. And after this program, he took the robe. So it is also like, the representation of Tamil Nadu was also there in the first Bhikkhuni Sangha Day, which was celebrated in India. Okay. And from there, in between, there were many things which we were not able to, but yes, the Sangha Day celebration means it is like we need Sangha. There are so many bhikkhunis now. We have on record 110 bhikkhunis, highly ordained 110 bhikkhunis. Okay, mostly from Maharashtra and some from other state. And this I'm trying my best to bring them together. And in 2012. Formally, we had formed, informally, we can say, informally, we formed the Bhikkhuni Sangha. So from 2012, we are working as a Bhikkhuni Sangha, All India Bhikkhuni Sangha. So this work has been started, and it is growing day by day. And tomorrow it would be a very big program. We want to celebrate it. And maybe I'm thinking that um, bhikkhunis from Karnataka had come, bhikkhunis from Telangana had come, bhikkhunis from UP are arriving, and from Maharashtra, different places, bhikkhunis are coming. So let hope that tomorrow there would be a group, a good number of bhikkhunis present in this function, and everyone must would be knowing that this day is for the celebration. You know, we have to remember Mahaprajapati Gautami, who is our mother, who is a pioneer, and because of whom we are able to take the robe, you know, who has opened the door for us. Yes, obviously, we don't have to forget our Mahamanav like Jyotirao Phule and Savitribai Phule. Obviously not, because every time someone or the other has given their time and their life for the spreading of this. So I think this celebration would take the news all over the world, especially in India, that yes, Mahaprajapati Gautami was the first bhikkhuni. Everyone knows that she was the mother of Siddhartha, but now her identification should be that she was the first bhikkhuni of India. You know, she was the first bhikkhuni. It should, everyone, whenever a question is asked, who was Mahaprajapati Gautami? The answer should come the first bhikkhuni, not as a mother of Siddhartha. She was there, yes, no one can deny, but she is the first bhikkhuni. This message has to go, and I wish that in 2 years, every Buddha Vihar in India should have the one portrait of Mahaprajapati Gautami. You know, it should be there. I will send to Tamil Nadu also of the photo of it. You please frame it and put it in your houses, in your Buddha Vihara. You should know her, because of her that the 50% of population is working with shoulder to shoulder with men, and we are taking humanity as 100% to make our life better. So I wish I was able to explain this and express my views, and really grateful to all the Mahaprajapati Gautami and all the people, not only women, the men also, all the bhikkhus also who had worked for the bhikkhunis, like Ananda Tera, many bhikkhus who favor the bhikkhunis also. You know, we can't deny it. Maybe less in number, but they are favoring us. They want bhikkhunis to come. So I thank to all that because of them we are able to do our work. We are able to spread Buddhism, the Buddha's teaching to people, and we are living a better life. Thank you. Jai Bhim, Namo Buddha. कहाँ गया?
Panditji. What a great speech, actually. You have made us to walk through the history along with the what has been provided, what has been hidden, or whatever it is, actually. It's a great learning, and thanks to Mahaprajapati Gautami, who has been the mother for all of us, actually.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions, Bantiji, here. Shall we
Yes.
start it now? The
Yeah.
first question is like, after Baba Sahib's embracing Buddhism, by 1967, you have mentioned one bhikkhuni, the first bhikkhuni has taken our
Yes.
place in the, may we have the name of the bhikkhuni? Like,
Yeah, Bhikkhuni Vishakha.
wow, Vishaka, okay.
Yes.
The audience-
And she is now 96-year-old.
Oh, she's now
Yes.
alive now?
Yeah. She is alive. She is not able to walk at present,
Okay.
but she is very happy to sit in our function.
Okay.
We have to bring her on the chair, you know, we have to carry her.
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
she is very happy with the work of Bhikkhuni Sangha.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
Okay. And the questions you have put forth as really logical, and no one can deny that because the Mahaparinabhana, the portraits, everything as the three sanghas alone, not the fourth sangha, that is Bhikkhuni Sangha. As per your sayings, like I was thinking that we are supposed to rework the images, the creatives, whatever it is, and we need to have the pictures of bikinis in our home so that we will have better vision about having a
Yes.
strong bikini sangha, and we'll be very much grateful if you can share the Mahaprajapati Gautami's picture so that we
Yeah.
can share it among our Buddhist families and among our friends and networks.
Sure.
And uh, when it comes to starting a bhikkhuni sangha, particularly in regions like, what are the things you see as a challenge or something uh, when you uh, found a sangha in a particular location, otherwise in particular region.
Challenges
Yeah, challenge. What
to
are the
become
challenge
Bhikkhunis and all.
uh,
Ah.
to found a Bhikkhuni Sangha? What are the challenges you are facing, and how it could be
Overcome.
overcome? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, actually, there are challenges to find women or girls, those who want to become bhikkhunis. That is the first challenge, because most of them are unaware that women can also become a bhikkhuni. Okay, that in Maharashtra almost now it is spread. In other state, it is still unaware. People are unaware of it, and when they get to know, the first, when we study on this, we found that um, till now, talking about the bhikkhunis in programs and all, many people, bhikkhus or other promoters of the Dhamma, they talk of bhikkhunis like Patachara or Kisa Gautami or other bhikkhunis who entered the bhikkhuni sangha due to who entered the bhikkhuni sangha because they had problems in their life. Okay, so it is said that whenever a woman is in trouble in a family, or whether her character is not good, you know, as according to the family or the society, she should become a bhikkhuni. So this is the wrong message going, because nowhere in the program it is talked of Mahaprajapati Gautami or Yashodhara that they become the bhikkhuni. They were not suffering. They didn't have any problem. They just wanted to get the education. They just wanted to spread, help Buddha to spread Buddhism, his teachings. You know, if it was spread by everyone promoting Dhamma, I think the picture would have been different. You know, so even like as I came here, I became bhikkhuni. Most of the people are thinking I had problem in my family. Therefore, I became bhikkhuni. It's not so, because I wanted to become family because I want to show the equality what Buddha has teachings has, you know. Therefore, I am fighting for the bhikkhuni sangha. It was not my personal problem. It is problem of this society. So this is coming up. So when I meet many girls or in programs and all, women, they say that they want to become bhikkhuni. And The problem is that the girls want to become bhikkhuni, parents don't allow, and parents want the girl to become bhikkhuni, the girl is not ready. These are also some practical problems. But when the girls want to become bhikkhuni and the, they talk to me that they want how I can allow them to come to us, the main biggest problem is there that we don't have place to keep them for their continue their study. To become bhikkhuni, it is, as we say, it is the education part, you know, the Dhamma education. Apart from the academic education, this is Dhamma education. So when a girl want to come to take the Dhamma education, she should have an hostel type residence where she can stay, and also some uh, classes, some schedule, some hall where the classes should be there for the meditation, for the theory classes, So this kind of space is needed, which is still missing for bhikkhunis. It is the biggest problem we are facing because so many girls came to us and we were not able to keep them with us. This is the biggest. Today itself, I got one call from Meerut, two girls want to become bhikkhunis. So they are coming. But the big question for me is where to keep them, where to start. We are having one vihar, so in vihar means it's a hall where Buddha statue is there, where bhikkhunis live, where people also come. So there is no atmosphere for classes. The atmosphere should be there for the education. This is the biggest challenge we are having. And for the formation of Bhikkhuni Sangha, yes, because there are many bhikkhunis were never trained, they were not given the teachings. So bringing them together is also a challenge for me, because now till now they were like, yes, no, we have taken robes, we know all the suttas, we know everything, so we can go and do the pujas and tell people that this doing puja will help you and bring out all from your problems. But no, education is there, the counseling is there. Buddha's teachings are a kind of counseling. So the bhikkhunis have, I have to make them understand, it's not enough doing puja is not enough because you're doing it in Pali and they're not understanding. Yes, you are knowing it, the meaning of it. The meaning has to be told to the people. So these are again the challenge. And if there is training center, maybe the earlier bhikkhunis may also join and learn a lot because they are also joining. So
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Hope we will overcome these challenges and we will have a strong Sangha, Bhikkhuni Sangha roaming around on this land, because we found the literature, like classic literature of Tamil, like Mani Megalai is
Mani Megla,
one of
yes.
such a Bhikkhuni. And
Yeah.
we and so as you said, like around 10 bhikkhunis accompanied Sangamitra bhikkhuni to China, to Sri
Yes.
Lanka. So it's a wonderful messages actually. We hope the future will be better than what it is expected.
I want to say something.
Yeah.
As when I came to Tamil Nadu, I got to know about the Bhikkhuni Mani Meghilai, But somewhere I'm again feeling that Mani Meghilai is not reached to the northern part of India. She was Bhikkhuni and maybe she must not be alone at that time. Okay? So there must be some Bhikkhunis at that time. Okay. In Dhammapuri, we say there is one statue of a woman, in white robes and all with hair on one side. Because when bhikkhunis were not allowed, women were not allowed to become bhikkhunis, as the Buddhism also vanished and everything was, nothing was there. that time bhikkhunis started wearing the white dress and growing their hair. So maybe they are the bhikkhunis who became later became the scent of but they did not go back to their families. Maybe there must be some bhikkhunis, and I think Tamil Nadu people, because it's in Tamil, you can find out research over it, and really I think the reality will come that there were bhikkhunis in Tamil Nadu too. You know, I really give respect to Mani Megalai. When I came there, many people called me Mani Megalai because of I was very happy that yes, there was one bhikkhuni here. That one only I was knowing one, because and the people were knowing him, knowing her. So that was very great thing. I was very happy to be there to know her. You know, so let come up with many bhikkhunis, take out, dig out everything. Yes.
Exactly. Like that is what if Mani Megalai has been recorded as a classic literature, because of which
Yeah.
it has passed the time and it is
Mhm.
still on our memory and whatever it is actually. And
Actually, one more thing I want to say, that this time last year, I think before Corona, we had one international Bhikkhuni conference in Chhattisgarh. That time, one Upasika from Pondicherry came, and she presented one paper where she said that I'm not remembering her name. Sorry if she is listening. Actually, Tamil names I don't remember so easily. So what she said, the mudras of the dance formation. What she said, the mudras of the dance formations are the mudras which we find in Buddha statues. No, she explained that I was not able to understand her properly. I was very busy with other things and all, and we did not get time to talk to her. I told her to please send me in English again. So, but I'm really thinking that what she said, that when women were not allowed to remain as bhikkhunis, they were what we say, devdasis. They converted to Devdasis because they did not have families. They left the families, and later they became Devdasis. And the Devdasis had to dance, you know, and they were expressing the Buddha's teaching through the dance form. I don't know how much it is, so but we have to research it, because they were bhikkhunis. According to her, they were bhikkhunis, and they were teaching Buddha's teachings. They were spreading through the mudras. There are many mudras. This one is the famous mudra of Buddha, where in dance we find it many times. While we giving respect and all, they do this way. So these are the many things we have to research on. Yes. I'll give you the name of that Upasika if I have, I think. I'm not able to talk to her because of the language. You can talk to her.
definitely,
Okay?
definitely. Thank you, Bantuji. And I hope we have come to the end of the session. And so thanks for your time. And particularly tomorrow, you are going to have a
Yeah.
great day. Yeah, even though you have agreed and you have spent a good amount of time in educating us, and putting many things into our mind to think over it, particularly the drawing part and everything actually. Even after hearing this, after this session, we are going through a reading session of Mani Megalai.
Yeah.
Collectively, we are reading Mani Megalai now. It's about sixth session we are going to have on the next coming Saturday, coming Sunday.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm.
Uh, I was just about to think why there is no mention of any bhikkhunis until this scenario, what we are reading now. We were able
Yes.
to learn that there were some bhikkhus who have initiated, who have shared the knowledge about Dhamma to Madhavi or otherwise any other characters. Madhavi is Manimegalai's mother actually.
Oh, oh, oh.
She was
Huh.
also have become a follower of Buddha.
Oh. Hmm.
Okay, so
Hmm.
these questions are start thinking over my mind. So we will definitely do the needful and make the history straightened as it is
Yeah.
needed. And we
I would
hope
be happy to know all this thing what you are doing it. Be a part of it.
we are humbled
Yeah.
enough to have you guide us actually, and even we would like to see what Buddha has made us the world to see.
Yeah.
That is our
Sure.
humble motivations, whatever it is. So thank you, Banteji. Thank you, and we are uh, what you say. Convey our International Bhikkhuni Sangha Day wishes to all the
Yeah.
Bhikkhunis,
Thank you.
Mass, who are staying in, who is going to join you by tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Definitely.